Are y'all ready to meet a legend? The legendary, the mighty Dolph Lundgren!
Is this seat taken?
That's right. He's here.
It's He-Man!
It's on. Oh my gosh, sir. It is an absolute honor to sit here with you. How has this weekend been treating you so far?
Very well. Thank you. Nice to be here in Philly. Love it. Weekend's been good. I was, what did I do? Well, we had a Philly game. Phillies.
Of course.
Threw out the first pitch.
Hey, make some noise for that.
Woo! Prepared my reputation around here. And before that, actually, I had this vodka break, and then we had like a little called hard cuts.
That's right.
Like a badass vodka. And so we had a little, we got for that on Thursday.
That's amazing. That's what I'm talking about. Way to show that love, Philly. Definitely appreciate you on that one. I gotta get this started by talking about your origin story in acting, which didn't really kind of begin with like a jump. You were kind of pushed into this, where, as I understand it, you were told like, hey, you could be an actor, you could be a model. It wasn't even what you were trying to do. Is that true?
Well, I wasn't sure what I was trying to do.
Okay.
I was trying to please my dad by becoming a chemical engineer.
Okay.
And a scholarship to MIT, which I did. But
make some noise for that, y'all. Come on. Yes.
But I was never really happy. You know, I knew that I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. And I did some modeling to make some money on the side.
Right.
I was a martial arts champion, and I went out with this girl in New York, Grace Jones, who was a singer back in the day. She was famous, and you know, through her, I met some people in the acting business,
right.
acting coaches, and I did a couple of scenes just to, because I'd done it when I was a kid, and one of them told me maybe you should try acting, and so I went up for a couple of movies while I was waiting to start going to MIT. And one role I went up for was a boxing movie. I was turned down because I was too tall.
What?
But I found out it was Rocky IV. I saw a little sign, handwritten, and I loved the Rocky movies. Of course, I was a fighter, so I sent some 8x10s off through a friend of mine, through another friend who said he knew Sylvester Stallone. So 6 months later, somebody called me when I was in Sweden, and they flew me in, and I met with him, and then I had to audition. I got the role.
Make some noise for that. To think that there is somewhere in the multiverse where you were too tall to play Drago and we didn't get that. Like you were perfect for Drago.
Well, thank you. But I think Sly had a different idea. I heard afterwards he was looking for like a kind of an ape-like creature, you know, kind of a hairy big guy, Russian bear kind of thing. But when he met me, I think he thought it kind of needed like almost like a superhuman, created in the lab, and you know, I think they had a cut-off fight because they don't want me to be too much taller than him. But when we shot the movie, I was on the apple box sometimes.
Oh wow!
Trying to make me even taller.
That's genius. The David and Goliath nature of it is fantastic. But before you were an actor, as I understand, you were a bouncer. Is that true?
Yeah, I was trying to make some money, and I was a bouncer in Sweden, Australia, when I went to school in Sydney, and also in New York, the Limelight.
So the Limelight, that's a church stage. Yeah, a church that was turned into a nightclub. Can you tell us, if statute of limitations will allow it, what's the wildest story of you being a bouncer at the Limelight?
Wildest.
If you can tell us.
Well, I don't know. I mean, this is pre-Giuliani, so it was, you know, it was kind of dangerous. So my racist brother was robbed in our building, like at the entrance to our building, gunpoint. He stole everything. He was left in his underwear in the winter, like in a movie, like a cartoon. So we had a lot of guys pulling guns on us, you know, outside the club, and you know, you call the cops. And the car would pull up and we'd go, they say, oh, the guy had a gun? We say, yeah, which way did he go? Oh, he went that way, and then the cops parked that way. So this is back in like 82. But no, we had a good time. Had a few celebrities there. And then the funny part is I was on the door and we had Liza Minnelli, we'd like to come in. Wow. And, you know, 1 year later, they held the VIP party for Rocky IV, and I was like the main guest.
That's amazing.
I was up in the VIP room being served by people I used to work with like the year before. It was kind of bizarre.
I love it. I love it. Now, obviously, your height and stature is something that's been like a signature of your entire career. As you just said, Rocky IV was one that it almost cost you the role. Has it ever actually cost you a role for being too powerful and present?
I don't know. Maybe stuff like, yeah, I think people, in one way, kind of pigeonholes you to some degree.
Sure.
Because, you know, people see you a certain way, very physical and perhaps not as an emotional person or a character. So, yeah, I think it works for you and against you, you know. It's like they say, in the movie business, it's all about money, really. So you play a priest in one movie, you know, you get another 10 offers to play a priest, you know, it's just how it goes. But, you know, I think my physique has helped me a lot. And I think it's helped me to, you know, because cinema is about motion a lot. So it's not so much about what you say as what you do.
Right.
I think it's been quite helpful for me.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I think if you really kind of look at your career, there's so many things that have kind of been like almost ahead of their time with their execution. Masters of the Universe is a big one. Make some noise for Masters of the Universe. We're talking a live action adaptation of a popular, you know, kids franchise piece that, you know, now suddenly we're seeing that everywhere. From Transformers to the MCU, all these different things. Was that something that you were kind of aware of how like kind of forward thinking it was to be a part of like a pop cultural franchise like Masters of the Universe?
No, it was almost the opposite. I was afraid of making that picture because I was going to play a toy. You know, in those days playing a toy wasn't a good idea.
Wasn't cool. I
was like, cool. Now, like, there's a reboot of that picture, and they've got like a great cast, you know, a lot of famous Academy Award-winning actors in it. So it's sort of changed 180, but I was a bit wary about it, but I think I like that picture. I think it's sort of stood the test of time. It's kind of a sweet movie, you know, with a kind of very positive vibe to it.
1,000,000%. I got to dig a little deeper because I'm such a He-Man fanatic. Obviously, working with Frank Langella, like his Skeletor was absolutely terrifying. What was it like to work with such a talented guy?
No, I was in awe of him, you know, and I kind of watched him act, you know, try to, because the way he was so expressive with his eyes, he had that mask on. I think it took about 3 hours every morning with that silicone, like, you know, and in the new movie, I think the Skeletor is played by Jay Leto.
Really?
Yeah, and he, what they do is they just add the face after. They just, you know, you kind of use your own facial expression, but Langella had to use just his eyes as the voice.
Yeah.
It was very good. I mean, I was 30 years old. I was in awe of him and kind of tried to study him.
It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And I also think, like, with a movie like Masters of the Universe, it kind of paved the way for, again, other live-action things like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which comes out like 3 years later and becomes like the highest-grossing independent film at the time. I think that's part of what you've kind of set the trend for of these things being possible. To say that, I got to talk about Punisher. And yes, make some noise for Punisher.
Woo!
We've seen some newer iterations of Punisher since you took on the role. Do you have a favorite one that you weren't a part of?
No. I haven't seen the other one, sorry.
That's all right.
I was the same thing with the Punisher. It was a cartoon character.
Right.
I didn't know the comic books. I just, I was wary to play the character, but it was written by Robert Kamen, who wrote Karate Kid movies.
Absolutely.
So I had a pretty good script, so I give it a shot. Also got to do martial arts.
Yes.
They flew some people in from Japan, a couple of fighters who thought it was a real fight. They were going to fight me for real. they were real disappointed that, oh, it's not a real fight. And then when one of them found out he was going to get killed, he was crying, you know, my family, you know, back in Japan. We didn't want to die. We didn't want to die on screen, but I had to like spare him anyway.
When you have situations like that, where you have very talented fighters in real life, and they think that this is, you know, something a little bit more serious, do you ever take the time to kind of, you know, off camera, maybe get a little sparring in, kind of get that off a little bit?
It depends. A lot of times, you know, you focus on the movie, and there are a few real fighters I work with, like Randy Couture, you know, an MMA guy. Right? You know, there's been a few others, but usually you focus on, you know, what you do on screen.
It's more than fair. Okay. I think one of my favorite things of action heroes is that obligatory sort of wound that they have to get. Like they have to get shot in the arm or the leg or something like that, just to kind of prove that they are somewhat mortal, right? You've taken a couple of these hits in your movies where either it's a shot, you know, in your arm or leg. Is there one in particular that you know is like, this was a little crazy and this character should probably have died?
Oh yeah. Many times, even in Expendables, you know, I get shot in the chest. Right? He slugs like, damn. It's like, I want a Viking funeral. We're shooting that scene and he's, you know, there's no line like that in the script, and he's, you know, the camera's rolling and he's like, hey, come on, Donald, tell me who it was. And I'm like, I look at him and he says, say it, I want a Viking funeral. And I'm like, what? Just fucking say it. I want a Viking funeral. Ended up in the movie. But that should have killed me, of course. 2 inches above the heart or something.
I think you took a similar shot in Showdown in Little Tokyo at the end. It's a clear shot, like it's right in the chest there.
Straight through the heart. I mean, I think it's, yeah, I think in those old movies, the 80s, 90s, the action stars were a little more vulnerable, like they got more injuries. I think I like that. Whereas now in the super, you know, Marvel universe, you know, everybody's invisible,
right?
Invincible. So it's a little, it gets to me, it's a little bit boring. Like, you know, really, nobody gets killed. The bad guys come back as good guys the next time. And there's no real repercussions for what you do. But, you know, it's kids' movies, right?
That's right. We like the hardcore stuff. That's what we want. As a fan of movies, do you watch your own films?
No, I don't like to watch them. I watch them usually once when I do ADR, when I do replace the sound, redo sound. But you know, sometimes I catch something on TV. But no, I just look to the future and. I don't watch it much.
I mean, I don't mean to disagree with you, but you're really good. You should really watch those movies. I think you
take your word for it.
I think you'd be a fan. Absolutely. Out of curiosity, what are the top 3 films that your fans always reference when they talk to you?
Well, obviously Rocky IV.
Of course.
You mentioned all of them. I did Masters of the Universe. Sometimes people like Creed 2, which
hey, we're talking about that. Absolutely.
Actually, we shot in Philly in the winter for Ukraine, you know, for Kiev.
Right.
And Punisher, people like that one. Aquaman. So, yeah.
Absolutely dope. I love it.
And I come in peace sometimes.
We talk about that one too.
That's like the crazy, great movies, you know, where fighting an alien drug dealer.
It's so good.
Came up with it, you know, where they smoked. I was just wondering when I read the script. There's an alien drug dealer followed by an alien cop. And the alien cop gets killed, and now I gotta take over. I like that.
It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. I think that's one of the things that makes the 80s so great is anything could become a movie. Yeah. All you needed was an idea and maybe some budget. You can do it. It's absolutely amazing.
And real stunt. Real stuntman, because it had to be in camera. Pretty much everything was in camera. Right? I mean, they started Star Wars, but that was in space. But you know, regular movies, there was no CGI. It didn't exist, so they had to do it all for real.
Now, are there any particular franchise movies that you like to watch these days?
I don't know, not really. I don't watch a lot of movies. I kind of watch some old movies sometimes on Netflix or something. And what do I watch? Yeah, sometimes if I have a project, I got to study picture. Like for instance, I'm developing action comedy, like Get Shorty.
Okay.
That movie.
Yes.
Something like that. So I watched, in Shorty, I watched King of Comedy.
Right.
Scorsese, I watched that, just for the style, because the movies are, some of them are, they're sort of evergreen, like you can always learn something from.
Right.
Sometimes it's even better when you watch older movies, so, you can take something from them. Everybody's, like talking, a friend of mine, Scorsese, he looked up to Kurosawa,
right?
So it kind of goes in steps like that.
That's brilliant. Kind of turning it back to your degree in chemical engineering, I'm curious, what are 3 things that we use every day that involve chemical engineering that we don't realize that that's what that is?
Using vodka, espresso,
yes,
martinis. Vodka martinis, no. Vodka, what else? No, well, look, I don't run this vodka company I started, and it's the first time I've really been challenged in that way. Film acting is like play. It's called a play, right? It's supposed to it's a game, you have fun. But running a business, being an entrepreneur, you can be more multitasking, dealing with lawyers, dealing with liquor permits and so forth. So I think I can use some of my engineering in that.
It's genius, absolutely genius. And I love that it still carries over from all the things that you do. You even act in some of the commercials for this vodka, which the one that I saw recently was you were chopping ice.
For my drink.
Yes. And it was brilliant. I just want to know, did it take a lot of training to perfectly, knock out that cube? Like that looked difficult.
Well, I used to break ice quite a bit, like when I was younger in different exhibitions and stuff. But the cube, somebody else. That was a stunt.
Oh no! Come on, don't take that away from me. I just knew that was you.
It took me a couple of hours.
Okay. That's it's training, it's practice. That's what I'm talking about. I think there are a lot of actors who are coming up now that would love to be kind of considered an action star in the same vein that you are. Is there anyone that you've kind of seen kind of come up and you go, I think they've got the stuff?
Right. I'm not totally familiar with all those guys. I mean, obviously, we got the generation below me, Sly and Arnold is, of course, you have Van Damme and Seagal. Then you have people like Statham,
right?
Jason Statham has done really well.
Make some noise.
Yeah, he's a good guy, solid. And Jet Li, those guys are a little younger than us, but right now, what's his name? Hemsworth is pretty good.
Pretty good. Yeah.
I did a lot of commercial with him once. He's a good guy. Are there any other you can do? I'm not sure.
Okay. I mean, those are pretty solid choices. Absolutely. So you've done work with Marvel characters, DC characters. Is there any other form of geekery that you wanted to work into but you haven't yet? Is there another franchise like that you would love to kind of put your stamp on?
I was in a Bond movie once.
That's true. Silent killer.
Fun. Not really, I think right now I like to produce things as well, to develop projects, to be a little more hands-on with details, and I think that's kind of where it's at, a little more of a producerial and acting as well, but have a little more control over it.
I like that. What is it about producing that really kind of intrigued you to kind of decide to shape how a movie becomes?
I think, filmmaking is a collaborative art form. You need to bring the right people together, and somebody needs to coordinate all that and kind of wrangle everybody. And I think I'm pretty good at that, at multitasking and relating to different types of creative people, of course, and is just kind of keep the pot boiling and never lose sight of the theme of whatever you're trying to do with the creative, with the movie, you know. It's kind of difficult because you have to steer the ship, but there's a lot of gales and a lot of islands to avoid, and I realize I'm pretty good at that. I've never really done it much in the past. Right? I left it up to other people, but sometimes I think I would have been better doing it than they did.
I get it. And I think it's a wonderful step as an actor to evolve into that stage where you go, I'm going to try to make some things happen, you know, for me, as opposed to just hope that this works. And I think that's brilliant. That's awesome. Make some noise for that, y'all. That's fantastic. We got a couple of fan questions that were submitted. This one is from Ryan O. from Seabrook. The question is, what was it like when all the action stars were together in the Expendables? Was it something you thought could ever happen?
Well, first of all, it was wonderful and exciting. You know, I hadn't been on the big screen for I think 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah, my last time I did a theatrical picture was like John and Mnemonic, it was called. It was like 1994 or something. And then 2009, I was in the Expendables, the first one, and I showed up on set, and Sly gave me a big hug, and it was fun, you know. And I show up, and he's there directly with a megaphone, go right, go left.
Such a dramatic film.
I remember this, and it was fun to meet everybody on the set, of course, all the other action guys. And we actually, Expendables 2, we had a scene so Jean-Claude Van Damme was like the bad guy.
Yeah.
You know, great guy, and there's a shootout with him, and we were all there, and it was raining that day, so they had these tents set up. It was in Bulgaria, and I got there a little early. I was with some friends, and I was there, and I think, you know, Sly may have been there, you know, Statham shows up, and then, you know, Jet Li, and Mel Gibson, and then, you know, Harrison Ford, and they start, and I'm like, this is kind of unreal. My friends are looking around like, can't be happening. It's a small place like this. Van Damme is there, of course, and whoever else was in the picture. And, you know, only Stallone could put that together, of course. And it was nice, kind of an honor to be part of that team, I think.
That's awesome. Make some noise for that, man.
It was such a dramatic film.
That's super cool. This one's from Jimmy S. from Orlando, Florida. When it comes to a movie like Command Performance, do you prefer to act or direct?
I think acting and directing are both fun. You know, they're different. Acting is playing, like I said, it's a game. You know, you have to play and you can't take it seriously. But, you know, directing is more serious. You know, you have a schedule, you have a budget, you know, somebody behind, you know, looking over your shoulder, producer, like, you gotta get this shot, it's 1 o'clock. You know, how much film do you in these new days when we got film in the camera? You know, how many feet did you shoot today? If film was expensive, you know, you don't have that anymore. But yeah, I think I like both, except if it's a good script, I think directing is more satisfying.
I like that. This one's from Genevieve from Lonsdale. Do you have a favorite memory from filming Rocky?
Oh yeah, I got many, of course. I mean, I was a Swedish kid. I just started acting seriously like a year before. Here I am with Sylvester Stallone and Tyler Shire, you know, Paul Weathers and the rest of them. I think the scene I remember the most was probably when we were in Las Vegas, the fight against Paula Creed.
Yes.
Because I was, you know, it was just me. I had no assistant. It was just me in my boxing gear, sitting in my dressing room. Nothing going on, you know, just waiting. And then this guy shows up, you know, knock on the door. This African-American guy shows up, you know, and I'm like, yeah, can I help you? He's like, yeah, the Reverend Brown wants to see you. And I'm like, okay. And James Brown, you know, wanted to meet me. The Godfather, so I met him. And I, you know, I was a fan of his music because I'm a drummer, you know. I loved James Brown funk, and met him, and then they took me down, put me on this ring. It was on a hydraulic lift, you know. And you see in the movie, my character's like, he's kind of raised into this ballroom, and there's like planes flying, and James Brown's playing, and whatever. And the look on my face, is like, what the hell is happening to me? And it was the look of Drago, but it was the look of Dolph, what happened to my life, it's changing in front of my eyes here. So I love that scene. I kind of see the kid out of the innocent child, young man I was before all this happened.
That's brilliant. I love that. Do me a favor, make some noise, because we got to give some love to Paul Reynolds and James Brown, two icons of pop culture. Greatly missed, fantastic men. Absolutely. Okay, so this one's from Carla. This one's a great one. What was it like going from a Swedish scholar to an American action star?
Yeah, like I just said, it was a trip. I changed. I was actually in Australia. I was fighting in the Australian Open in karate, listening to Rocky III and Eye of the Tiger. Like to get psyched up. And little did I know that 3 years later I'm going to be in the next picture. So I had no idea about becoming an actor or anything. So it kind of took me by surprise. I think getting famous. The movie was a big hit. And I did a worldwide press tour, and this is during during the Cold War, right? So I came to Germany and did a big press conference, and they're like this. They were saying, Mr. Lundgren, what do you think of the Cold War situation? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry. And then I think what happened was it took me about 5 years to recover from that.
I understand. There's a lot put on your shoulders, but I'm glad that you were able to kind of navigate it in a way that it didn't deter you from continuing to being an actor. It's very important that you found that balance.
Yeah, I always say, like, if you want to know about show business, you can pick up an Old People magazine from 1985, and you see who of those names are still, relevant today. Not very many.
That's smart. That's super smart. This one's from Sasha. All your roles have showed off your incredible physical skills, but which of your roles was the most physically demanding?
Physically demanding.
Physically demanding.
Well, I did a bunch of those. I mean, Masters of the Universe was really tough. Because I was kind of bare-chested in the whole movies, right? Because they cut, kind of muscular, and we're shooting 54 nights in a row. So, your body wants to just give up. I had to be on a diet through the whole picture, swinging a big sword around. But that was a tough one. Masters was physically very, very tough. I did another one called pentathlon where I played an Olympic athlete. So I had to run, swim, fence, ride horseback riding, and shooting. That was hard too. I had to learn all those disciplines.
Of course. Which one of that bunch was the hardest for you to get into?
The horseback riding.
Really?
Yeah, they don't like me. I'm too big. The horses are going to throw me. I got thrown a few times.
Man, we're so lucky that you didn't get hurt seriously. But it's such a great thing that you are so active in wanting to understand these roles, and you take on these actual feats to make sure that you can do them to kind of portray it. I think that's absolutely important. I love that. Carl wants to know, you've done action and drama, but is there a new genre that you'd like to try that you haven't already?
Well, I think the one I look forward to now is this action comedy we're developing, which is a bit like Get Shorty. It's set in Hollywood, and I sort of play myself more or less in this picture. I think that should be fun.
This would be great.
It's sort of like comedy, but sort of, like I said, kingdom comedy, which is in your picture. It's a little bit of that, Sean, kind of, it's sort of, you kind of play straight, but it's kind of, this setup is kind of hilarious.
That's awesome. I love that. Eileen from Philadelphia wants to know, what do you like to do to unwind after a long day on set?
Take it easy. Don't meet them. Not to see anybody. Sometimes I meditate, but usually in the morning I like to do it. I meditate a few times a week, you know, just about 30 minutes. I like that for unwinding, is quite good. It's like somebody said, just sit by yourself, quiet, with nobody around for 30 minutes without speaking, without doing anything. Most people never have that. And it just clears your mind. I like to do that to recharge.
It's brilliant. I love that. My last question before I let you go. As I understand it, it's kind of a tradition in the Rocky franchise that the actors have to take a real punch. They want to capture that moment of a real punch. And I'm curious if one, is that true? And two, if so, who delivered the real punch to you?
Yeah, there are those shots in the Rocky movie. There's slow motion shots where you get punched in the face and you see a lot of the spit flying out of your mouth. I mean, especially in the old days when I did it, you had to get those shots on the camera. So, you know, they would get lined up. They pump a lot of lights into because they're at the high rate. They were doing 120 frames a second. And I think we just lined it up, and then you fill your mouth with water and fake blood, and then you kind of just stiff arm it, so it's kind of, there's an impact, but you don't really put your shoulder into it too much. And I think Sly hit me a few times. He was my boss, but I had to hit him too. He went to the hospital, no, but then after the shot, I think we just took an Advil and went home that day.
That is absolutely amazing, and I think it just kind of fits that you have a career that punches hard, and I think that's one of the reasons why we're such a fan of all the things that you've done. Philly, do me a favor, join me in celebrating one more time Mr. Dolph Lundgren. We'll see you guys next time.